Hi everybody, this is NaturallyGreer and I'm coming to you with Kim Spins, or Kim Edwards. She's owner of Kim Spins, and she's going to tell us a little bit about how we should try to achieve the best camera images for beginners. So like the basics, we don't need anything in depth, we just need to know basics of how to go about achieving some good images so we can load them up on YouTube. So what would be your advice? I have a T3i, Canon T3i, and she has the Mac Daddy of them all, the Canon 6D. So,
oh, there's ones even bigger than that.
Yes,
but they're too big for me.
Yeah, and she has this mega lens on hers as well. That's beautiful. But you know, we're going to talk about basics, just regular digital type camera settings. So, what would be your first advice?
Well, I didn't start out with a big camera. I started out just with a compact Canon G11, I think it was, and that's what I learned on. Okay. And the most important thing is if you have manual settings, to start on aperture priority, learn about depth of field, what you want in focus.
Okay, so aperture is like what's going to be blurred and what's going to be your focal point.
Right. And once you decide that, you can let the camera do some of the work for you. Until you have that really comfortable, I wouldn't move into
the manual.
Full manual, yes.
Toyed with that. So,
it's a lot to learn because you've got to learn how aperture, shutter speed, and ISO all work together. And so,
what's ISO?
That's how sensitive your camera is.
Okay.
The higher your ISO, the more light your camera will take in, but the more grainy it'll be. So it's a trade-off.
Okay.
So that's the three you have to learn how they work together.
ISO, aperture,
and shutter speed.
And explain shutter speed.
Shutter speed is how long your shutter is open, and that's the difference between getting your kid running to you and it being in a sharp focus, or being able to see the blurriness of her movement.
So like if you did a portrait versus like a sports or something like that, your shutter speed would be higher with the sports than it would be with a portrait.
Because you want to freeze the action.
Gotcha.
The good place to
without blurring it.
Right. To practice for shutter speed is running water. Because then you can see what freezes the water, so you see the individual drops, and what makes that really dreamy.
So you should start with dripping water or running water?
Like running water from, like if you can find a little waterfall or a fountain or something like that. Just go out there with your camera and play and see what shutter speed freezes the water, where you see the droplets, and what gives it that dreamy look.
Okay, well that's good advice. So start with some water. Now you were talking about angles of shots, making yourself look slimmer or making more depth or whatever. Like, some people have like oval faces, some people have round faces, some people have like square faces like me. How would you say, or what angles do you feel like those people would do best at?
Usually the 3/4 look, like this, is better than just straight on.
Okay.
Also, if you shoot a little above the person, it's a very slimming effect as well.
Okay.
And the biggest mistake that women make is if they're worried about under their chin, they stretch it out like this. No.
They want the lines to go away.
But actually, if you drop your chin slightly, it'll make a shadow under here.
And it
camouflages it. So you want to offset things just a little bit. Like if you're taking pictures of someone, you don't, contrary to what most people think when they start out, there's the rule of thirds. You want things to kind of be in 1/3 of the picture.
Okay.
Like you don't want to just dead center things.
Okay. Because then it looks kind of
forced. It looks forced. And also, if your symmetry is off, people can notice it.
Okay.
Where if it's, you're way off to one side or the other,
it's not so noticeable. Okay.
Now, if you're trying to go for, a more artsy type look, you can, of course, break that rule. But for most people, I would say to look up the rule of thirds and start there.
Okay. What kind of lighting do you feel like is optimal for shooting in?
Outside and shade is my favorite. Okay. And of course, like all photographers, I love the golden hour, which right now starts about 5:30 and goes to about 6:30. Okay.
So we're in Central Time.
Right.
So 5:30 to 6:30 would be optimal. We're out here at what time? 2. So
But
it's
that's-
not optimal, but we found shade.
Right.
So that
If you
helps.
can find shade, you can shoot it any time of day.
Okay.
The most important thing is make sure that there's no dappled light, like from trees. You cannot Photoshop that out. You can't
So you
make
mean
it
like
go away.
the light trickling through the
Right,
trees, you don't
right.
want
So if
that.
there's like a spot of light here and here, like the dappled light that trees make, like on the ground over there,
Okay.
you can't.
So like through the leaves and
Right,
things like that,
you
like
cannot
you
Photoshop that
can't
out.
get that out.
I can raise up shadows like under your eyes, but if it's dappled light, it stays
Because
that
you're
way.
not relieving anything, it's actually
Right.
accented by the light already. The light position, where should light be when you film? Like, should it be behind you? Should it be on the side of you? You know, it's going to darken your face on one side if it's illuminating on the other. So, like, where's optimal to get just a best basic picture?
That's tricky because different looks will give you different time of day. Like you want to get side light if you want to catch some of that good sun flare at the golden hour. You can do backlit and exposed for the person if you want to get like the real angelic look in the hair. Most important thing is you don't want straight down light, like noon to 2 o'clock or
that's
so, like
bad.
now.
Yeah. You want to be inside shooting usually now.
Unless you can
Inside
find
good.
good shade, and we
Unless
did.
you can find good
We
shade,
found
yeah.
good shade. But what you really don't want is straight down light, because that you don't realize how deep people's eyes are set until it really
see
makes
that darkening,
shadows
yeah.
right in there.
Okay.
So
I think that was some good information. I'm not going to keep Kim all day. So, like I said, you can check her out at KimberlySpins.com. She has a lot of good pictures. She takes very awesome Mardi Gras pictures. If you look back at my Mardi Gras video, you'll see some of the pics that she took. And yeah, check me later and see y'all later. Subscribe and like.